Most ambitious men don't fail because they lack intelligence. They fail because they outgrow their strategy, but refuse to outgrow themselves. You think you need a better funnel, right? But what's actually happening is this. Your identity has hit a ceiling. And ceilings don't announce themselves. They show up as hesitation, as overthinking, or as maybe next quarter. But the thing is, you don't rise to your plan. You fall to your inner architecture. And that's what this entire Inner Architect series has been about. But here's the uncomfortable truth. If you watch this whole series and nothing has changed, it's not because you didn't learn enough. It's because you haven't expanded enough. So let's name this clearly. You don't have an income ceiling. You have an operator ceiling. Your business grows until your nervous system can't handle the pressure. Same thing with prices. Your prices rise until your identity feels exposed. Your visibility expands until your environment stretches your comfort. Then you tighten, you delay, you rationalize. And then you call it strategy refinement. But it's not refinement, it's protection. So right now you might be thinking, I've done the work, I've evolved, I'm not playing small. Maybe, but where do you still hesitate? Is it pricing, delegation, visibility, which is my thing, and investing? That hesitation isn't tactical, it's structural. So think about it. Strategy scales opportunity, but identity determines whether you keep it or not. So if you think about this entire series, episode 1 was survival versus sovereignty. Most people are not stuck. They're structured by survival programming. Now, episode 2, control versus influence. Control feels powerful, but it's actually a nervous system reflex. And then we went to episode 3, adaptive purpose. Purpose isn't fixed, but for people that are, rigid purpose becomes a ceiling. So let's jump to episode 6, emotional fitness. Smart people don't lose money because they're stupid. They lose money because they're dysregulated. Everyone knows how emotional money is. And that takes me to episode 7, the room you stay in. Your network doesn't reflect your net worth. It only calibrates it. So then you go from that point to episode 9, strategy, like I mentioned, isn't a problem. Execution capacity determines whether strategy converts. And when I mention chaos before scale, that's because growth doesn't feel like momentum at first. It feels like instability. Different topics, same route. So I want you to think about it. You're not limited by information. Clearly, it's 2026. But you are limited by expansion tolerance. And here's where this becomes real. Because expansion never feels exciting at first. It kind of feels unsafe. When I wired $120,000 for that earnest money deposit for that 122 unit apartment complex in Las Vegas, externally it looked strategic, but internally I felt so exposed. Like I mentioned, my finger was hovering over the cursor, debating to get that wire confirmation. It's crazy because the numbers worked, the underwriting was clean, the deal made sense, but my nervous system didn't care about any of that. It only cared about the risk. The version of me that grew up in poverty or in scarcity felt that wire completely different. That moment wasn't about me doing real estate. I was 5 years in. It was about identity expansion. And here's what most people don't understand. The pressure didn't go down after I sent the wire. It went up. I had sharper meetings, faster decisions, a thinner margin for error. So understand, scale doesn't reduce pressure. It amplifies it. And if your inner architecture isn't stable, you will unconsciously shrink. And most founders don't collapse during failure. They collapse during expansion because exposure feels like danger and shrinking feels responsible. But shrinking is expensive. So I want you to understand that everything we've built in this series points to one capability, and that's adaptive sovereignty. That means it's your ability to stay regulated under pressure, choose response over reaction, expand identity before revenue, and then hold exposure without feeling the need to retreat. You don't control markets. You don't control volatility. You definitely don't control timing. The only thing that you can control is alignment. And aligned operators build durable wealth. So you might be asking yourself right now, how do I know where I'm shrinking? You know, because it's that decision you keep circling, or it's that move you keep postponing. Or for everybody, I think it's that level you say you want to get to, but you haven't structurally prepared to hold it. Confidence doesn't create expansion. Expansion creates confidence. And here's what most high agency operators get wrong. They chase revenue growth, but ignore structural leakage. And the thing is, you don't lose scale loudly, you lose it quietly. And that shows up as underpricing disguised as humility, or over control disguised as leadership. You could even say delay disguised as patience. And a big one I think people have is the emotional reaction disguised as logic. But it all comes down to the fact that that's not market failure. That's just architecture misalignment. So you don't need 10 new strategies. You need to close the 10 leaks that are currently, because income doesn't follow ambition. It follows capacity. So I'm going to give you one clean next step. Take the Adaptive Sovereignty Index, not for motivation, for diagnosis, because it will show you where your survival program is running, where your nervous system tightens under pressure, and where your operator ceiling currently sits. So after this video, go to adaptivesovereignty.com. Don't worry about any cost. It's free, because clarity comes before expansion, always. And the second thing I want you to do, once you go to Adaptive Sovereignty, once you take the test, if you scroll down to the bottom of the page, there's a guide. Download that guide. It's also free. It's called 10 Leaks, quietly costing high operators 100,000 plus a year. The reason, because scale is not just about adding revenue. It's about eliminating inefficiencies. If you think about your own household, the fastest way to generate more money is to cut expenses, because most inefficiencies are psychological. And like I mentioned with leaks, as you know, they compound over time and silently. So one thing I want you to remember, always remember, you don't scale a business. You scale the version of you that's running it. And during that time frame, pressure reveals architecture. Architecture determines your durability. So this entire series was never about tactics. It was about building the version of you that you said you wanted. It's about building the version of you who can hold what you said you want. So here's the final question. Are you upgrading your strategy or upgrading the operator? Because one produces short-term spikes and the other one produces sovereign scale. This is the inner architect. You don't fix the blueprint first. You expand the builder. So take the index, download the guide, and build accordingly. So thank you guys for watching. Take care.